All right, guys, so we are working on installing the ECU Masters ADU into the Supra today. So there were a lot of things that we had to do off camera here. The first thing was the 3D printed bezel that we made here. So we had scanned the original cluster, and this is what we made here. Now this basically fit exactly on how, like, this was scanned like how the stock cluster is designed. And we were having fitment issues with a few things here. So the biggest one was there's an issue with fitment here. And so we redesigned the bezel. So we redesigned the bezel so it would fit a bit better and it would clear this little section here. And that's what we were hitting into. So as you can see, the ADU now sits basically like that. So it's a way better fit with the new cluster. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and start wiring it up. So I've already got power and ground already wired up. Now I do need a constant 12 volt source that isn't going, the factory cluster doesn't have a constant 12 volt source, unfortunately. So we're going to tap it off of this, and this wire here goes to the hazards here. So I've went through the service manual, and I've as usual, I have a spreadsheet here telling me the functionality of the factory stuff, the pinouts, and the colors. Okay, so the thing is that there's two things that I'm not quite sure of, is the fuel level and the parking brake. So I have notes here to verify it first. I just have to look into a different part of the manual that I just don't have handy. But now you guys are probably wondering, like, why is there so little things that are being wired up? Remember that this car has a max ECU, so the ADU is going to be communicating via CAN bus for all those other signals. So for instance, coolant temp, speedo, RPM, oil pressure, you know, fuel pressure, all that stuff is coming from the max ECU side. So I don't need, so the things I have mapped out here are basically indicators that do not interface with the ECU at all. So we've got the left and right turn signal respectively. We've got the high beam, low fuel light, fuel level itself, and the parking brake indicator. And so the parking brake indicator is important because not only does it give us tells us that the parking brake is up, it also will indicate if the brake fluid level is low off the reservoir. So that's why that's important to have. Now, what I've learned through experience is that this car most likely is going to be like the SR20 Miata. And on his ADU install, we found out that the parking brake actually had ground when it was deactivated. So this would ground when it's deactivated, and when you pull up you would lose the ground. So we had to wire it up, or we had to configure the ADU slightly different. So in terms of the ADU though, the only thing that we actually have to wire up besides this stuff here is we've got to wire up a battery power wire that we're getting from this connector here. So constant battery power here. Then we've got two sets of CAN bus. So we have CAN bus 2, and that goes directly to the max ECU, and then we have CAN bus 1. CAN bus 1 is just wires for the CAN to USB for me to communicate to the ADU. So we're not.
A few moments later.
All right, so we've got the white wire here. We've got it a little bit long because I'm trying to follow the factory path of this harness and then also give it a service loop. And so what I wanted to mention was actually this connector here. So as you can see, hopefully you guys can see it better. So you can see that the pins are flush against the red. So we know that's a good connection there, and that's how they should be. So when you go to clamp this all down, if all your pins are not sitting right against the red retainer, then it's not right. So now we've got ground and key on power set up. I'm going to grab the ADU, we're going to plug the sucker in and then just test it, and it should come on with key on power. So I've got the ADU in my hand. Go ahead and plug that sucker in, and then once I find the key for it for the car, if all goes well, we'll key it on, and then we will have power. Awesome. So I wanted to get a better shot of the ADU, just because that I know that it was kind of at an angle. But so the biggest reason why I really love the ADU is actually just because of how fast it boots. Okay, so this is from key on, or this is from key off, and it's already on. So definitely awesome display, huge fan of it. Obviously you guys know we're dealers for ECU Masters and we love their products. So if you guys decide that, you know, you really want one of these, reach out to us and then let me see if I can get you guys all set up on it. So that, all right, I didn't get much recording done, but I basically just pinned everything up. I've got our CAN bus 1 and our CAN bus 2 leads already done. Everything in the back should be pinned up. We've got it tested now. We're currently upgrading the ADU firmware really quick though, and that looks like that's that right there. So now at this point, I'm going to get some, we're gonna check all the inputs here to make sure that they're working. As you guys know, we have our turn signals, our high beam, and our brake indicators all hooked up currently. And so, like I said, I'm just going to pull that up in the software to see where that lands and make sure that it's all working. Okay, so I've got it all configured here into the ECU, or into the ADU, excuse me. So we're gonna look at these zeros and ones here, and that just tells me whether it's active. So I'm gonna hit the turn signal here, and you'll see that the left turn signal is flashing. Now this is the right turn signal, which is the center one, and then we've got our high beam indicator, and then finally down here we have our parking brake. So parking way all the way down, and it's at 0. Pulled it up, it's at 1. So all that is working now. Now we just got to actually start working on configuring the actual gauges for it. Then we also still have to wire in this CAN bus. This is the CAN bus that goes into the Max ECU, and we have to calibrate for that as well too. All right, so unfortunately, this is like the only angle I can really get everything at. It's not a really good way of clamping it, so you guys are gonna have to deal with it. But as you can see, the turn signals are in fact working, but their colors aren't correct. So here, I'm gonna put the e-brake down here, and you can see that it does in fact all work. It's just not set up correctly in terms of color. So we're gonna make some changes here in the software to try to get it. All right, so I got this set up. The parking brake is up, and you can see it's illuminated red. We're gonna go ahead and put that parking brake down. Now it's off. And same thing with high beam. It's only on when I activate it. And I'm gonna hit the hazards. That way you guys can see the left and right turn signal. Now I'm gonna overlay it onto the first page, to the generic page, and that's what it looks like. So we're gonna move some stuff around. But I think that's gonna work out just fine, just because that these things aren't on consistently, and that way it's just an indicator. So when you're driving, that's what you're gonna see. Turn signals on, turn signal on, and then high beam, and then obviously when you're parking, the parking brake will come on. Now, and I can move all of this around here. It doesn't have to specifically stay here, so I can move some stuff around, but I just wanted to kind of get it set up so that way I have like a default setting that's already done. So this long twisted pair right here is for the Max ECU side, and it's got to go through the dash and come down over here. I'm going to put a DT connector in here though as well. That way that we can unplug it and plug it in as need be. So I'm basically just, all right, so I have the CAN bus connections over there wired up, and as you can see, we are getting readings off the ADU now. So now I've just got to go through and actually calibrate everything. So being that we're Yankees, we're gonna have to change everything from metric to standard here, just because that no one reads in Celsius here on this side of the world. So we're gonna make some changes here, but as you can see, the ECU and the ADU are now speaking to each other. All right, so we got some more stuff panned out on the Supra here. So we've got the CAN bus stuff working, we've got our pressures working, we got speed working, but what we don't have is fuel level. So as you can see, it's kind of reading, but fuel level is always a pain with any aftermarket cluster because you have to do what's called a pull-up. So we've got a 5-volt wire that's got a resistor in line, and it goes into the analog signal. But the problem is that with the factory specs that I pulled from the service manual, I can't get it to actually read the level correctly. Every time I do calibrate it, it says it's like empty, which I guess could be right because the car has been here for a little bit. So we're gonna pull out the level. I'm just gonna calibrate it manually. And just so you guys can have an idea here of what that looks like, you can see that this green wire comes out of the back of the ADU for 5-volt wire, and then it goes into a resistor, which then at that point ties into the actual analog signal up. And we've got to clean this up. The reason why I haven't done so though is that there is a possibility that the resistor value may change. I currently have 100 ohm in it, So we'll see. If that doesn't work out, then what we're gonna have to do is change the actual ohms here on the resistor and then try it again. So maybe my calculations were right, because you guys can't see this, but there's not really a lot of fuel in here, but it doesn't matter. The fuel level's out. So we've got everything wired back up in terms of the fuel level stuff. So the pump itself is not going to be active. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab my laptop and I'm going to plug into the ADU and we're going to calibrate that. So it's pretty cut and dry. We've got the fuel level all the way down, so it should be reading empty. And what we're going to do is we're just going to hop in here and we're going to look at the voltage, and we can do that by looking at it here, which gives us a value of 253, right? So basically all I got to do now is just change this to 253, turn this to 0, and then that's our 0 line. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing in reverse. We're basically going to prop up the fuel level so that it reads full, and then we'll go through and calibrate that again. So now as you can see, the level's all the way up, and same deal. First I'm going to hit OK here, and you can see that the value is 0.07 for full. So we're gonna go here, and this is going to be kind of hard because the software it plays kind of weird. So let me go ahead and adjust this. Basically, if you look here, I tried to change the value, but you can't go lower than the next column. So I've got to basically invert this table really quick and then get that all set up. Okay, so I've got to calibrate it somewhat. It's not super duper accurate, just like fuel level in real life, but currently the level's at empty, and you can see that it's at 0 liters. And then what I'm going to do here is move it to the halfway point roughly, and this is roughly half, and that should give us 50%. So it gives us a hair over 50%, and then we'll go all the way full, which should be here. It's a lot harder to do than it looks. All right, so that's full, and that should give us 100%, which it definitely does. So fuel level is calibrated. We can start wrapping this back up. What I'd like to do, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the low fuel is working. I've tried a couple different things here to see if it does anything, and I don't think it's working. So it's pretty cut and dry. Basically, like once you hit a low level, it should actually, you should see voltage because it lights up a light. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's working. So I don't think there's anything that I can do about it. So maybe. So the Race ECU has a really easy way of calibrating speed. You literally go into a gear and pick a RPM, and then just hit calibrate per gear that you're in, and it just self-calibrates. Now it's not super duper accurate, I don't think, but let's see.